Fashion is definitely in my blood. I mean, I was a fashion baby. I think it began when I was at kindergarten, probably. I remember my mother telling me that I used to come home and tell her that it was a fancy dress today, the next day, or we had to wear our party dress. And I was always the girl at school who had the socks right up to the knees and pretty hair ribbons. And so it was always something that was a part of my life. And my parents, Diana and Peter Craig, have been in the industry for 67 years, and I've now been in it for 47. So, you know, I think I just grew up in the industry. After school, I would go into the factory and do my homework on the cutting room table, and I was always involved in giving opinions on their collection that they did, which was called Fifth Avenue Frocks. So I think it just was a part of my life. When I left St Margaret's, I was an exchange student in America for 12 months through Rotary. I applied for London, Paris and New York, thinking, you know, I'd go to the fashion capitals. And I was advised that I was going to Oconomowoc, O-C-O-N, O-M, O-W, O-C. It was in the Midwest with 10,000 people. And I said to my parents, oh, I'm not going. And they said, oh, well, go, you know, if you don't like it, come home. So I went and I lived with 3 different families for the 12 months, and it was the best experience of my life because I was such a novelty. They took me everywhere, and I went through, I think it was 45 of the states. But during the last 6 months, they permitted me to go to college, and I did a fashion technical course. It was life-changing, and I think that just endorsed the fact that this is what I want to do. I came back and I had a few things that I thought I might like to do as a career, but really I knew it was fashion. So I asked my parents if I could do a label. I did a small collection of evening wear, and I think there were about 36 garments. And where the label was fortunate is that I went nationally straight away, and that's quite unusual because normally you start in your state and then you go to the next state and the next state and eventually nationally and perhaps internationally. But I was very lucky in that I had the opportunity to go nationally on the very first collection. So we then thought, well, let's continue. So we did a second collection and it all really started from there. I was young. I was definitely a young designer from Brisbane, and that was a challenge. We'd go around Australia selling the range and go to Melbourne and they'd go, the designer from Brisbane, you know, they really didn't want to know about you. And it made me really determined. I thought, I'm going to crack this market one day. I was going to work until I sold this range nationally. And it finally happened, and I often laugh because, you know, a lot of the Melbourne people now come and live in Brisbane. But in those days, they thought we were very, very country-ish. In the RAQ Awards, there were 4 Hall of Fame members, and I am still the only female designer in the RAQ Hall of Fame, and the only designer to ever achieve or receive the RAQ Award of Excellence. So the first award that I won was an RAQ award, and I was 21, and I went out to Indooroopilly Shopping Centre, and they had this big trophy. And I was with my mother and I said to her, oh, I want this trophy. So I was very excited when I won it. I won the first RAQ Supreme Award in 1981, and then I was fortunate enough to win it in 82. And this collections category was new, and it was pretty exciting because it had so much more impact. You had 4 beautiful garments, and it was Italian linen in multicolour spots and black spots on multicolours. They were still stunning today, actually, those garments. Over the years, I think I won over 50 fashion awards. My favourite award is the Order of Australia, which I received in 2018 from Her Majesty the Queen. And I was very fortunate last year to be awarded the Queensland Great. The 80s were, I think, the most exciting era of fashion ever, in my opinion. It was exciting, everything was big. As I say, I like big. Well, that's maybe why I like the 80s, because everything was big. It was big hair, big shoulders, big bows. It was quite over the top, really. And it was a very exciting time to be in that era of fashion. The day Elton John walked into my store in Double Bay, it was my lucky day. I was flying to Sydney for a friend's wedding, and my mother used to run the shop, and I said to her, I can't stay, I'm running late. And she said, no, I want you to meet a customer. I said, I can't stay, Diana. She said, Keri, I want you to meet a customer. And I said, hello, and she said, this is Renata. And I said, hello, Renata, nice to meet you. And she said, Renata's getting married on Tuesday. And I said, oh, that's nice, congratulations. I was a real pain. And she said, Keri, Renata's marrying Elton John on Tuesday. And I went, you're kidding. So everything stopped, and we had 4 days to coordinate this, incredible wedding. We did the wedding gown, we did the boater, the bow tie, the going away dress, her jewellery, her trousseau, the whole of the church. But everything fitted, and that was how it started and how it finished. It was a huge project, and somebody asked me once in an interview afterwards, will you ever do anything like that again? And I said, I honestly don't think there would ever be a bigger challenge than that one. I don't think any other wedding, even now, had the publicity that that wedding had. And it took the label from being, a national label to international level, because when I woke up the next morning, every single paper or magazine or news station was covering the Elton John wedding. And of course, Keri Craig was mentioned, Brisbane was mentioned, Queensland was mentioned, Australia was mentioned, and it just gave such a boost to our country and our industry. And it was great for every Australian fashion designer. So it was a highlight of my career, without a doubt. When I was little, my favourite arcade was the Brisbane Arcade, and I really thought one day, oh, I'd love to have a boutique in that arcade, because it was really the place. So when the opportunity came up with the entire lower level being available for lease, I just looked at it and I thought, maybe we can do this Ralphie thing that I had always dreamt of doing. When I started the Emporium store, it was very unique. It was a challenge because it was such a large space. It's the whole lower level of the Brisbane Arcade, and nobody had done anything like that. And we incorporated fashion, our own label, but also international labels and other Australian labels. We had homewares, giftware, children's wear, and then we brought in at the same time a fashion cafe. And we were the first people in Brisbane to introduce high tea, which is one of my favourite pastimes. I love to go to high tea, and it was an instant hit, and it's still our most popular signature dish, along with our beautiful fresh crab sandwiches. It's just an amazing store. It's got a lovely ambience about it. My parents, Gianna and Peter, and my brother actually, Jason, are in the Emporium store every day, and they love it. I keep saying to my parents, don't you think you should retire? And they say, we don't want to retire, we love what we do. And they've got a wonderful team and they love them. It's a very family atmosphere and it's very special, and I'm very proud of them. I think the success of my career has been being surrounded by a wonderful team. I've been very fortunate with loyal, hardworking and caring staff and family atmosphere, really. It's obviously a business, but you treat people how you would like to be treated yourself. We look after them and, I think they enjoy their positions, and that's why they've been with us as long as they have. It's hard work. It's dedication, it's your team, it's having the idea of something that is unique, that you're going to try and achieve and make work. And a lot of life is timing. I mean, Elton John, that was timing with entering my family business where the market that they were in was changing. Timing meeting my gorgeous husband, Trevor. You know, I think, what do they say? The sliding doors. I guess a lot of life is sliding doors. Fortunately, I collected every paper article, every radio interview, every television interview from the very first piece of my publicity. And it got to a point where our children didn't really all know what we did, and it was a bit of a funny story that our youngest son came home from school one day. They'd been asked what their parents did, and his answer was, my dad's a butcher and my mum's a retired dressmaker. And I thought, I think we better do something so these children of ours know what we actually have done. So it's a fashion retrospective coffee table book. Typical of me, nothing's easy, nothing's simple. And we're just doing a definitive edition, which we're working on at the moment.
Her contribution to ACC has been invaluable because the board has always been really excited when Keri turns up to the board meeting to hear an opinion, because she achieved so much at a young age and was so professional at a young age. She's continued it through. Her professionalism, her eye for detail has remained there. In fact, it's probably grown. And combined with being a mother, running businesses, being involved in the ACC business, she deserves every accolade she's ever had.
It's a very unusual combination, going from the cattle yards to the catwalk. It's very different, and I think that's what makes our life interesting. It's so contrasting, and we've been so fortunate to have success in both industries. Even though fashion is amazing and I love it, it's glamorous, but it's a difficult industry and you have to work very hard to stay in the industry. I'm so lucky that I've had a career in an industry that I just adore. I've loved every day of my career and I continue to do so.